there's a photograph of mine that I posted on Facebook. I was tempted to bring that here. I was running my little kibanda, and this was right after my Form 4. I hadn't even had my ID. I was a hawker, in my little town, and I had my various things that I was selling. But what is the impact of that? Is there a positive impact on that? So I think even as we look at asking ourselves, at what age do we introduce young people to this? Can you create entrepreneurs from an early exposure to a protected space of engagement? Think about the US. The US is, I think, the only country now that has not signed one convention. This is the Convention on the Rights of the Child. And the reason why they have not is they engage young people in things like military, their trainings, from the age of 14, 15, 16. What does that tell you? That there is something that if you want to train young people really on very specialized skill sets, then you've got to do it very early. Is that very different from the cultural space that we've had? I don't think so. Think about the blacksmiths and all that. So I think sometimes we quickly want to demonize our African traditional way of doing things. But there's a lot of positivity in that. If your father was a blacksmith, you needed to sit and work with them. But that did not deny you a chance to go to play. Didn't give you a chance to how to build your skills, if it's a formal education. So, and we've made it very clear that as long as a young person will be able to continue with the education during school hours, they're not doing things that expose them to either physical hazards or moral hazards, then it is proper and appropriate to be able to expose young people to work. And I think that's really where we've also missed it as a continent, that a lot of education system has been designed in a way where the focus is you're prepared to finish your secondary school, go to the university, learn how to write, and in between here, we miss out a lot. I want to give an example. I think there's a friend who explained to me about a young man who was from a fairly wealthy family in this city. And he had the chance to be taken to any university in the world. But in his early stage, one of the exposures he had was a chance to go and work, sit along with a friend who was doing construction, building doors, the wooden doors. And when he finished his Form 4, he said, well, I think I don't want to go to the university. Can you help me set up this? And now he's doing those wooden doors that will cost like 500,000 shillings for one door, He's grown into that. So I think what I'm trying to balance here is we have a problem and we need very practical solutions. We're saying we have a huge population of young people who don't have something to do. And will we sit back and keep saying we'll wait for the formal space to be able to create employment? But how can we instead provide more internships, in very practical spaces where you're creating products, solutions to things. And this is where including looking at even very informal spaces like the domestic workspace. Now, why I'm emphasizing this is, I'll give you another very practical example. There's a young man who was about 17 years old, was working in a domestic workspace, and the employer chose to send this person to learn how to do Spanish dishes here in Nairobi, in the UN Gigiri area. And out of that learning, this young man now had become a specialized chef, so to say, in doing Spanish dishes. And that exposed him to a new market. So there is a sector there that gives you an opportunity to train young people into something, but not just because I'm here as an exit. Can we look at some of our workspaces and think about adding value on how they do their work in that space? And I think, to me, there's therefore this balance between cultural discussion vis-a-vis how do we do our things, and really reviewing how the colonialist and some of the early education systems were designed that literally didn't allow us to build skills in people.